JHK here for the AllStar, and joining me right now is a special guest, MMA Gold head coach Jim West. Thank you so much, Jim, for the time.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me.
No doubt, man. Let's first start off with some of your fighters, get some updates on them. Aspen Ladd, what is the plan for her in early 2022?
Um, she wants to fight kind of around her birthday, or just before it, or just like right after it. Her birthday's March 1st, so you can kind of expect to see her probably the very beginning of March or mid-March would be my guess.
And Hernandez, he's coming off a big win. His last fight was postponed, right, due to
Uh,
COVID?
no, no, well, okay, so he was always booked with Hidalgo. So he was booked with Hidalgo. It was like I can't remember exactly when it was the first time that Anthony got COVID, and they pushed it back about 5 weeks or so, and then he ended up fighting Hidalgo, of course.
Okay, and what's the update on him? I know he's continuing to train. Does he have a fight?
Yeah, he's actually booked for December 18th against Dustin Stolfsus. I can't
Yes,
pronounce it.
the
But it's
German
actually
guy.
last opponent
Hmm.
after Anthony.
Were you shocked? Were you surprised by that? Like, I expected someone else.
Um, a lot of times it just has to do with the availability, right? Like who's fighting when, and who is already booked, etc. I mean, we had some names that we had talked to the matchmakers about, but they were either just like booked, and it just didn't make sense for them to come back that quick because other guys needed to fight, and then some of the guys that we wanted to fight were already booked. So I mean, every fight in the UFC, as you know, is extremely tough. Um, so it's just our next step for Fluff, and should be a good night for him.
Yeah, definitely a good matchup for Anthony. Have you noticed that, in the past, like, I guess 2 years, that if you do, let's say, turn down a fight, that it's gonna take a long time to just get rebooked?
Yeah, that's a common theme, I think, for a lot of people, and everyone on the outside kind of looking in, and even the guys that are in it. Yeah, it's definitely a common theme. You don't want to turn down fights too often, especially if you're not someone that has garnered and earned a name quite yet into the UFC. You know what I mean? So those people that are in the upper echelon as far as the rankings go, they have a little bit more liberty, it seems like, to turn down things down to an extent. But even them, there's some things, accountability, sometimes it seems to happen, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. It definitely seems to happen.
Yeah, a lot of behind the scenes action, right?
A lot of behind the scenes drama, especially in the top 10, top 5. Like, boy, it's political.
Yeah, definitely. And Max Griffin, man, he's on this surge now and it's at a later age. You don't really see that in the welterweight division. What is behind that magic?
I don't know if there's any one thing that you can pinpoint. I think Max, over the course of the last, um, I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say that he beat Thiago Alves too, so that's a win. I would consider it a win. There's no way anyone on the planet thinks that he lost that fight, except for the people in Brazil, in Thiago's hometown. But we'll say from that point to now, I think a lot of it just has to do with Max focusing on Max, and understanding what his purpose is, and then devising a plan that coincides with what his purpose is. And I think it's that, when you're at the level that those guys are at, you're not learning to fight anymore, right? You're just adding a few tools and a few little tweaks here to what your repertoire is. And you know it's you're not going to see anything that he's not seeing something that, oh my god, I'm going to fight a guy that I've never seen this from someone before. And Max is just kind of understanding that. He's understanding, like I said, I'll say it again, his purpose behind what he's trying to do and trying to accomplish, and setting a plan and trying to stick to that plan that, like I said, coincides, what with um, his purpose. And that's kind of what some of the things that we've been focusing on a lot. Yeah, we're adding little things here and there, um, to his toolbox, but it's really just focusing on what it is that he wants to do. Who is Max Griffin? and what does that mean? And you're seeing the best part of Max each time, right? It's not so much hell bent on being so mad or any of those types of things. It's just understanding who you are and what you're really trying to accomplish.
It seems like he's very good at letting like past frustrations go and then kind of looking towards the future.
Absolutely, yeah. Max is a very mature athlete at this point. He's I think 34 now. He's been in the UFC a really long time. He's fought the who's who, really, if you think about it. I'm actually really surprised he's not and hasn't cracked the top 15. I think he's number 25 or 26. My guess is he beats whoever he beats, whoever that may be, when the time comes, and he will. He's probably going to crack that top 15. Those are some of the things and goals that he and I had talked about, and even with Fluffy to 2022, we're gonna crack that top 15, um, and it's gonna happen.
Yeah, hell of a squad you got there. Any up and coming prospects that we just haven't heard of yet that you could give them some love today?
Absolutely. I mean, um, we have a guy that's fighting this Saturday. His name's Trey Williams. He's 4-1, the pro. He's 185 pounder. His only loss is to Fluffy. It was many years back. Yeah, he's fighting this weekend. Aspen's brother, Shaler Ladd, he's 3-0. We call him the large child. He's only 18. The kid's 6'3", 6'4", 240 pounds. He's a big dude. Adam Avitia is fighting in December. I mean, Katarina Legareta, Ali Ryder, Joe Lee, Robert Vela. I mean, there's Diego Bigelow. I mean, there's a lot of guys that people don't know about that will make a splash on the scene quite soon. Gabe Guzman. Gabe Guzman's one of the best wrestlers in the state and college right now, in California, in the junior college ranks. I mean, he's dominating people in the Division I level right now. He's only 18 years old. I mean, we're a super young team, um, and all those guys will kind of grow together. So yeah, it's exciting to see, and it's just blessed to be part of it.
When you got fighters, young fighters coming up, and you look at the path that they can take to whatever promotion they want to fight for. So let's say the UFC. Do you like the path of the Contender series, or do you like the Ultimate Fighter, or is it just better to fight regionally and then get signed directly?
Well, you know what? It's a different. It's hard to get signed just to a promotional agreement just right off the bat, right? Like it's super difficult. I mean, you have to be a real big time blue chip, athlete that the UFC, if we're speaking about the UFC in general, really wants, right? So the Contender series is great because guys, I mean, you're seeing guys with records that are only 4-1, 3-1, 6-2. Um, they get their shot and they look good and Dana signs them. Now, granted, to take a step back, I don't think the UFC is a very different level. I don't think many of these guys are ready, right? Granted, if someone comes across your table and they're like, "Hey, I'm going to offer you a contract to the UFC," do you turn it down? That's a hard one to a hard pill to swallow to say, "Yeah, no, I'm going to turn that down." But at the same time, if you're not ready, you're going to get chewed up and spit out real quick, and that's the last thing you want. So it's a difficult thing to say. I mean, the Contender's great, Ultimate Fighter's great, all those things are great. Personally, I think guys, if they don't get a Contender shot, right, um, going through LFA, Titan FC, CFFC, I mean, that's almost a lock. If you do well in any one of those shows, you're going to get a shot at the show. Um, so any of those things, Contender, like I said, LFA, CFFC, Titan, those are the Invicta. Invicta's such a high level. It's the highest levels for females. And if you notice, all the females that go through Invicta, by the time they get to the UFC, they're ready for the UFC. I hate seeing these females just take these fights in the UFC and they just get murdered because they're not ready for that level. Right? Go through Invicta. You're going to fight the girls that you ultimately will fight in the UFC anyway, because those that are doing well in Invicta, they end up getting pulled up. I mean, look at the girls that are in the UFC that have went through Invicta and those who haven't. It's very different, right?
Yeah, different levels. And you going back to the Contender series, you do see a lot of the women that get a chance and actually get signed through the Contenders. They're not doing very good in the UFC right now.
They're not ready. I mean, they're not ready. They're just not. And it goes males and females. But man, as a female, you have such an advantage to be able to go through a promotion like Invicta, because Invicta is such a high level. You get all the media and the promotional stuff, and you get to be a part of that and understand what that is, and travel and do all those things at such a high level. So by the time, not to mention the girls you're fighting are super good. So by the time you get to the UFC, it's all like, oh, I've been there, I've done that, right? So they have such an advantage when it comes to a promotion like Invicta. Yeah, I hate seeing it. When they don't go through something like that, it's just they're not ready. Those girls in the UFC they're they're the highest of highs, right? I mean, you're same with obviously the males too, right? But uh, yeah, they don't do well usually.
Yeah, for the males, the pool is much larger, right,
Of
of
course,
selecting fighters. So the percentages, I don't know, but I see that a lot of your fighters, do cross training at other gyms, and how important is it to encourage your fighters to go out there? Because I've seen coaches out there that just kind of like hoard their fighters and pretty much tell them they can't go train with other, fighters.
I always say it, and I hold true to this statement. If you're a coach and you don't let your fighters go and cross train, you have some insecurity issues. You're probably whatever you're showing is probably shitty, right? I'm confident in myself and all of our coaches. I know what we show works. It's not being arrogant. That's just confident, right? The proof is in the pudding, right? We've been successful for a very long time at every level. So, I want my guys. I tell them to go as long as it doesn't interfere, you know, a lot with our training. By all means, go and cross train. Go and get that if it's something you feel you want to go and get for a day or two or whatever. um, Now, when you get into a fight camp, right? Fight camp. I don't really like that word, but we'll use it. And you're fighting someone who's 5'6", orthodox, and as a wrestler. The last thing you need to go and see is 100 different looks. You need to see that specific look for the next 8 to 12 weeks. So at that point, cross training, in my opinion, is not beneficial, because I don't need to go and see all those 100 different looks that you're saying. I need to see this specific look of a guy who's 5'6", right-handed, and a wrestler, right? So that's what usually when it comes down to, I bring someone in. If we don't have someone in house that is going to fit that mold, I'll usually go out and find someone that is going to fit that mold, and bring them in for a camp. But outside of that, yeah, sure, go cross train, no problem with me.
A topic that has like been in my mind about fighting is PTSD in combat sports, from like injuries, hectic weight cuts, losses, even damage that you take in a fight. Do you feel like that's a topic that we should talk about more, and does it exist in MMA?
Well, I mean, head trauma, anytime you're getting hit, causes and can cause a myriad of things. What those are exactly, I don't know. It's kind of outside of my scope, right? But it's definitely real. It's definitely there. There's definitely, like I said, a myriad of things that can happen from repetitive, hits to the head. Fortunately, I think, though, I was looking at some stats not too long ago. MMA is actually very, very safe in comparison to other sports. Believe it or not, MMA is like number 9 or 10 at the top 10 as far as being the safest for head trauma, which is, it seems crazy, right? Because you're looking at it, you're like, oh my god, it's so dangerous. But really, I think football was number 1, hockey was number 2, soccer was like number 4, rugby was up there, even basketball was ahead of MMA. I think the issue is, and I think a lot of teams are getting away from it nowadays versus 10 or 15 years ago, where guys would just show up in a room and you just spar all day. There are still some gyms that do that, which I don't agree with. Sparring every day is not the answer. But so I think a lot of the damage gets done in gyms, right? In the gym wars. But like I said, I don't think it happens as much anymore as it did 10 or 15 years ago. But it's definitely something that needs to be looked at, right? And you need to, as a coach, I always say, anything from the neck up, you got to be super careful. Anything from the neck down, those are normal injuries and things that are going to happen, right? Broken bones, torn ligaments, those types of things. But those aren't life altering things, right? Um, so yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that, and I think the UFC is actually looking to. I think they have something going on with the Cleveland Clinic, different types of things, but absolutely, it's something to look into.
You know, the traumatic events, it's almost part of the job now, you know what I mean, as an MMA fighter, as a fighter. And the effects of that, the side effects of that, like lingering effects of that. Have you seen that, you know what I mean, in fighters?
I'm gonna knock on wood because I'm
Yeah.
superstitious. No, I have.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Definitely. Now, circling back to one of your fighters, Aspen Ladd, you said she's trying to return during her around her birthday. Who is a perfect? I don't want to say perfect, but who is some of the potential opponents that you guys are looking at?
Um, I'm sure you could probably surmise who she'd like to fight. So I'll say that it's we're yeah. I'm not gonna say any names, but I'll let you venture to guess exactly who it is.
All right, all right. We did good hints, good hints. All right.
But we're trying. We're trying for it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I hope you get that fight, and also for you, man, you're a coach, you have so many fighters to take care of. Holidays, are they even holidays for you?
Yeah. No. I mean, that's the one thing is you have to be able to separate and have that time with your family. I have an 11-year-old daughter, so absolutely. You have to have that time. I tell her guys, I laugh when I see people posting all kinds of crazy shit on Instagram or Facebook. You're like, oh, we're training today on Thanksgiving from 11 to 1. What's your point? Is that all of a sudden going to make you win your fight because you trained on Thanksgiving? Get the hell out of here. What about all the other days, 365 days a year? Tell me about those ones. No, we don't practice on Thanksgiving. People need to go enjoy their families and have day off and relax.
Well, Jim, enjoy Thanksgiving, enjoy Christmas, enjoy New Year's, man, and hopefully we see you sooner than later.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on, man.